I've got one for you guys. My son drew the
If anybody here is a fan of M&M, believe it or not, have been in the refrigerator, and they are the special AutoSport radio M&M. So if you want any, I have some up. All right, we're going to start. I'm sure my first guest will be here. I got an email from him saying he would. And I would like to mention a couple of things. Number one is, starting tonight, we are back streaming live, and we are on YouTube. We have a channel, an autoracing.com channel at the events section of WIBC.com. This is a bucket list opportunity for those who love the month of May in Indianapolis. Dinner, drinks, and story about Indianapolis and more with Mario Andretti. It's hosted by Paul Page. Plus, they have a lot of free door prizes, drawings. It's Eileen, Suite 21, the Tower Terrace. They have tickets available for the 8th, the 9th, the 15th, 16th, 17th, 22nd, and, of course, race day on the 24th. And on Fast Friday, you'll have a appearance by the one, the only, the mayor of Hinchtown, Mr. James Hinchcliffe. So if you're interested in that, talk to the lady. She's right here. And if anybody is interested in the Indianapolis Indians, I have tickets for Saturday night's game. The seats are box seats. They're fantastic. And they are courtesy of XRB Radio, Radio Brown of Bob Jenkins. I mean, he doesn't live there. He's got a program there. So if you're interested, see me after the program. And they play the Iron Pigs. Nice name. How many took the time to watch this race this past weekend from Barber Motorsports Park? What did you think? Good race? You happy with the winner? Happy with who came in second? For those of you who missed, and I'm one of them, David Letterman last night had about a 6 or 7 minute piece on, showed him Graham and some of his specials, and was all gaga about it. And I have a feeling since he retires on the 20th, I'll be willing to bet he'll be here on the 24th or whenever the race is. I'm not sure. I know of 2, but there was another one back in 5th, actually, Mr. Hinchcliffe. We are thrilled to have Honda sponsors. Honda was founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into the IndyCar racing. Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to Indy sports cars. HPD offers race engines and products for the professional, the amateur, and the entry-level racers. For more information about HPD and the company's racing product line, please visit hpd.honda.com. Excellent company, and if you noticed, Honda, they're moving up, they're catching up, and their new high-speed body work will be debuted on Thursday at the Speedway. If you got an interest in taking a ride in a two-seater or single seat, that sounds like a good idea. You can do that by going to IndyRacing.com, checking on there and see what date works for you. You can go drive it yourself, or you can ride in a two-seater as you choose. And if you have a youngster 9 years and older, you can get a ride in the Victory. Victory is a ride for youngsters, and if you mention Don Kay, you will get a free photograph when you're done with the race, with the ride. And for the single and two-seater ride, again in the promo, put Don Kay and you'll get a 20% discount on either one of those. So I suggest, you want to find out what's going on, besides going to IndyRacingExperience.com, you can call. The number is 31243-7171 and go to 101. You will have a great time, and you will know why these guys and gals drive race cars. And the Indy Racing Experience has expanded. They're now into graphics. They have Panther graphics, and they're growing like crazy. If you need graphics for anything, the bigger the better. They can handle it all, and they've got the biggest printer made. So they can do work that's inside, because the ink that requires does not bother a humanoid. To get more information, call 317-243-7171 and ask for Brandon. Get all the information. Now, I trust my first guest is going to be here any minute. He was. He told me he was. Until Mr. Walker, I have a special guest. Well, why did you say ha? You go ha. Well, I don't know about that.
Not special, but a guest, right?
But a guest. You can sit down if you'd like.
All right.
Joining me now is a former standout basketball player.
That's true. Why are you
Once
laughing?
again, Giggles is laughing. You think I made that up? It's true. She was we were All-American, I think.
No, not
All-State, something. She is in the appraisal business, and sideline to do and staying out of trouble, she drives race cars. And of all people to drive for, Bill Throckmorton and his little honey, go to Miss Sandy Eden. Now, Billy said that if they brought 15 or 20 people with them, would I talk to you? And I said, for a nickel, I'll do that.
That's nice. First, I got to apologize. I didn't know I was talking tonight. Clothes on. We've been at the shop cleaning up the car, so sorry.
What, doesn't Bill do that?
That's my job now.
He tells me he always does that.
He does the more important stuff, the engines and that.
Sure, yeah. He does the more, gets the beer and the donuts. Maybe. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I understand your dad's not doing well. He has some health issues.
He does. Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear
pretty.
That. I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Yep.
But I'm sure it excites him a little bit to see you strap in a car.
You know, it does. He's the mixed emotions, of course, with the danger of it. But it just kind of, he says that keeps him going, keeps his heart knowing that I'm in.
Oh boy, yeah, I bet it does. It's fast. So, what series are you running? And I know Billy tried to tell me, but he couldn't remember. So he said, ask Sandy. She knows what we're doing.
Well, it's a new series called Race Savers, and it's a 305 engine with a wing sprint car. Bloomington is starting it. And so far it's been series.
And how are you doing?
Well, I'm progressing. We've only been out twice.
Yeah.
I just need the seat time, and it's a lot of fun, and that team's a lot of fun to be around. So that's good, and we'll get there. I want to get there a little faster than I have, but.
Now you've been in 2 races. I understand you have an 8th and a 5th. Did you go 5th, or did you start with 5th and then went backwards to 8th?
Yeah, I went back. 8th, but.
How now? You've driven stock cars. You drove in ARCA, if I'm not, or some stock car series.
Yeah, we did after the Roush Racing, that Driver X deal that we did. they sponsored me for a year to get some heavy car experience, and so we tested the truck, tested an ARCA, and ran the CRA Super Late Model Series and that.
Now, do you prefer open wheels?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Open wheel, definitely.
Okay, now you've won a couple of championships. You won the Neymars championship, and I think you won something in USAC.
Yep, first woman to win a USAC regional championship, so that was very exciting and really helped my career.
Did they give you make you a princess?
No crown, but good trophy and jacket and all that good stuff.
Oh, I see. What's it like being around Bill? Now, I know I don't think anybody knows that, but Bill does drink beer once in a while.
Once in a while.
You're working on the car?
No, just
really.
Not that.
Jeez.
Not till after work's over.
Now you don't indulge, do you?
No, I don't.
Good for you. Boring, but good for you.
I can still have fun. I have fun.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
How many events do you plan on participating in?
I haven't counted. I think they've got maybe 20. That's kind of approximate. Anytime Bloomington's running on their Friday night program, the Race Saver 305 series is running with them. So we're kind of week to week. As long as Bill and Stephanie don't fire me, we'll be there. So.
Actually, the straight thing is, as long as Stephanie doesn't leave, you're all right. If she leaves, you're up a creek. Bill tries to be in charge, but we know that's not true. We'd be in
trouble then,
And so are you enjoying back behind the wheel of a car, or are you spending your days and thinking primarily of appraising?
Oh, no, I'm really enjoying back. The last couple years I've been running a wing sprint car on pavement and a super modified, but we've only run probably a dozen races the last 2 years, so I want to be at the track. In
other words, you're not worn out?
No.
Okay. Where do you run next?
We'll be at Bloomington, not the following Friday.
Why? What happened with this Friday?
They don't have anything scheduled.
I think I heard something about Bloomington and one or two other tracks are working together so they don't run on the same nights.
Yes, and that's so good to hear. I mean, you hear all these different series competing against each other, and especially nowadays, we can't have that just with car counts and that. So it's good to see they're working together.
Well, we wish you well. Thank you for stopping by. I'm sorry you had to come with Bill, but sometimes, it's some of the things you got to put up with.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I really enjoy running for those guys, and I'm so thankful that they asked me to run their car, and just appreciate Baked Bloomington, Indiana, that's sponsoring us, but we can always use more so we can race more, so you know how that deal goes.
Now, see, that shows you Bill is not a promoter. He should have brought Honey Baked with him.
Well, it's kind of spur of the moment. We would have, but I didn't know. Sorry.
He knew this afternoon, but he had so much to eat for lunch he forgot.
Yeah, he had his nap, didn't he?
He did doze off in there, I know that. Stephanie was looking at internet on her handheld gadget, and Bill went to sleep. And then I said, "You're going to bring?" Yeah. I woke him up.
Oh, that's good.
Well, thanks for. And we wish you well. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I know. It's good to be on the show. Thank you.
And you have noticed I've gotten older.
You look the same. You look great.
Well, does she drive with glasses on? I would recommend it. Thanks for stopping.
Thanks, Don.
Sanid. My next guest is here. He is a former. He's come from He's been a team manager for Roger Penske. He is currently the president of IndyCar competition, and got a couple of questions that I can think of something, I'm sure. But I will have to say this about this gentleman. He is the president of the United States IndyCar, and the president...
IndyCar only.
Yeah. I'm going to run him for president. That's why I'm thinking I'm putting his campaign together. He is the president of IndyCar and competition, but believe it or not, I sent him an email, "Can you make it?" And he responded instantly, said, "Yes, I'll be there." So you don't have to chase him. He's here. Please welcome Mr. Derek Walker. Obviously, things are going so well, you have nothing else to do, so hell, you might as well come here.
That's right.
you know.
What do you want me to say to that answer?
Well, of course you'd say that's.
No, they're really bad. I can't stay long because I got to get back.
I understand.
Is that a better answer?
The new aerodynamic packages that were mandated for this year. Are you happy with what's happened and how they're affecting the racing and how they're affecting the cars and so forth? Are you happy with it?
Yes and no. I think there's. I like the fact that now we have car. So there's two different shapes that have an aerodynamic effect, and there's a lot of competition to see who's the better aero kit. So competition in cars is good. I'm a bit disappointed that it's cost much money. Didn't envisage it to be that much, but it's turned out that much. So I regret the economic impact, but I like the fact different looking cars, and they're more interesting than they were, and teams are really going hard, and the manufacturers are going hard to be as good as they can be. So that's a good thing.
I think a dummy like me can now look at one of these cars and tell the difference. You can see instantly a Honda and a Chevy, and because with the things that they've added to the rear cover and so forth, it really doesn't look like a spec car so much anymore. They do look different, like they're individual cars.
Well, that was the intention, to slowly over time migrate to different looking cars. So this is the first step, I think, of many that we could go into evolving the cars to be different as much as we can. So now you have a Chevy look and you have a Honda look, so I think it's a good start.
And obviously Chevy came out of the box starting to creep up on them. They're starting to catch them.
Yeah, I mean Honda is, when you look at their aero kit, it's a little bit more complex, it's a bit more involved. It seems to have been a little bit more difficult for them to so I think, you know, there is some catch up to do on the Honda's part, but the good news is, if there is good news in that, is when they come to the speedway here shortly and run on the ovals, it's a different kit. Parts are consistent, but there are other parts, because it's on a speedway, are going to be different. So the jury's still out where the competition is, and the reality is, you will see trends during the time that they run in practice, but until they go and qualify, you won't really know who's really got the upper hand, because they will hold back a lot, not show everything. And then for the races, kind of package again, one car might be the quickest in qualifying, but is it really going to be the quickest in the race? And kettle of fish in the race is completely different from qualifying. So you've got a lot of things happening there. Hopefully they all track satisfactory and the fans enjoy what they see.
Well, everybody at Barber Motorsports Park had to be thrilled with the weekend events. I mean, the race was spectacular, and the thing that I enjoy listening to, and I was watching on the computer and on television, the drivers say the racing was good. It was a good race. I'm not a big fan of road and street courses, but Barber makes for good racing.
Yeah, well, it's a fantastic facility, and they take care of it, and they're always improving. So you had a really good day at a really good track. And what made racing really interesting, I think, for seeing the overtaking and the different lead race, is that there were different strategies during the race. Some people pitted at different times, and they had more fuel at different times and less fuel at other times. So a lot of the overtaking came because there was different strategies, and everybody was running up front. So you know, and Hurtle and Adam and Graham was driving the socks off his Honda, but what he had as well as that, he had the better fuel strategy that took the race to everybody, and that's what made that charge to the front and others, made them interesting, because there was a fuel component in there.
Are you happy? You made some big changes with race control. Brian is back up in the booth, where in my opinion he should be. And he's got two other people helping him making calls. Are you happy with the way that's going? I don't hear a lot of complaining, so obviously that makes you happy, or at least I don't hear it anyway.
Well, we haven't penalised you yet, so if we did, he'd be complaining if we give him a penalty. No, I think, we've adopted last year, as I've said before when I was here, we adopted a different system last year, and it worked quite well last year, and we continue to evolve it, and Brian's a key component of that, and yeah, I'm happy with the progress. There is more work defining. I'm sure if Ryan Hunter-Ray was here, he would point out. Has he said something? I don't know. No, he would point out how he was penalised in New Orleans, and other drivers at the weekend weren't. Sort of manoeuvres. And I have to say, he's right. It's not as simple as just being right. What we're trying to do in race control is to allow this sort of semi-aggressive racing so it looks entertaining and not be thrown out every time somebody bumps somebody out of the way. But nevertheless, if you to knock a car off aggressively and he goes off into the boondocks, regardless of whether he comes back and T-bones 3 other cars or 2 other cars, doesn't necessarily make the determination as to whether you get a penalty or not. Overly aggressive driving needs to be defined and understood by everybody, and we need to be able with that. I'm not so sure he could do that next time and get away with it, because we're going to weigh in on the super aggressive, because you're not supposed to use a car as a weapon, and it can be if you go to some extent. Not saying he did it that bad, but he was right on the borderline of getting something. In fact, pretty well over that borderline.
How you have to try and keep an eye on, and I will say, having watched the last couple races on television, I think the camera work has been spectacular, which of course helps you because you guys can get pictures from all kinds of places. And I got to say that I think Terry Lingner and his group that are placing the cameras and the camera work is outstanding. And I think the racing. The first race out of the box in St. Petersburg, I don't think that the drivers realize if you tap the guy in front of you, you've got a $70,000 repair bill because the front wing gets all broken up. Have you guys stressed in drivers' meeting, don't hit the guy in front of you? Because they seem to have kind of settled down a little bit.
I'd like to say it's because we told them to, but I'm not sure they listened to us to that degree. No, we did have a conversation with the drivers and said to them, what you're doing, you're going to bankrupt your team owner because it's going to cost them so much money, and you're being overly aggressive, and what you're really doing is not only dragging down your performance, but the whole series is just not looking good, because all we're talking about is bits lying on racetracks and endless yellows to pick them up. So make better choices, because you're not really helping anybody, let alone yourself, because you break the car, you can't run any quicker. You're going to lose whatever advantage you may have had. So it isn't smart, but we realize you're and you're doing the best you can, but be a little bit more how you go about it. So we left it in their hands. We just pointed the obvious out to them. But I think also we went to the manufacturers and said, look, this is not good enough. You've got to stiffen this up. So the manufacturers, they got on it right away and strengthened up a lot of parts. So, and we continue with that. Some parts we said, well, you can't actually put that on because you can fix it, and you have. We're not going to let you put it on, so you've got to take it off. And so they're in the process of fixing other bits to put more bits back on that they had at St. Pete, because we've said, we just can't have this stuff falling off all over the place. It's too dangerous.
And besides that, the fire and safety team is tired from all the sweeping having to pick up, and at the end of the day, instead of being spry and going out for a cold one, they're...
Well, it's worse than that. They want double time.
Oh.
Yes. Extra work above and beyond their job, so they want extra money. No, they don't.
I know. The electronics world is stepping up, and I think you're one plus the teams and the pit box are getting a lot more information than they used to. They had John Cox actually some of the things in the car remotely that
information a lot quicker than that's one of our partners in. has a particular interest, and trying to take that data and that information that's on the car, whether it's cameras or driver's heartbeat or whatever, find out, and taking that data and making it transporting it in a means that the fan anywhere around the racetrack or at home can just connect into and actually get more involved in the whole process. That is a big objective, because the younger generation, they can't leave home without their devices, and reach out to them through those devices, as all you parents in this room probably know better than me. We're missing a whole generation that wants to talk to us or wants to watch what we're doing in a different way than we've done in the past. But one piece of information we are considering as taking away, which is the push-to-pass information. We are currently looking at the idea of taking away the info push-to-pass. And the reason being is, if television or if they see it on the data, the teams will tell their driver, is push to pass behind, so you've got to push to pass. So all you get is two guys doing another 50 horsepower more for each, and they both end up, in some cases, in the same place. But if there was an element of surprise about it, and you didn't know how much he had or when he was going to use it, that might be more interesting. And so we've talked to TV us on it to look at past races. What is the trend? What are we actually going to do? Of course, the guy said, well, gee, what are we going to talk about? Because if we don't tell the fans, look, watch this, he's got push to pass, he's pressing it, that would be an exciting part that we're missing. And so we said to them, well, wouldn't it be nice if they actually could pass, and you could talk about them passing like they did in the old-fashioned days. You talked about the pass, not about what maybe happened. Oh, yeah, look at that, he did the same things, or was it actually there was a pass? So we made...
I thought of that when I was watching this weekend. I'm thinking, if I'm seeing it, the teams are seeing it, and they know when the guy ahead of them pushes it. If you don't, you get lost. You got to stay with them at least.
Yeah,
and I agree. It would be neater not bypasses, because they didn't know either.
Right. And if you got Tony Kanaan up here and asked him to talk about how he played out the Long Beach race, he was told by the team what another competitor's push to pass, how many button presses the driver behind, and he happened to have a bit more. So every time that guy went to pass, he'd pass, and then he ended up where this guy ran out of push to pass, and then he knew he could beat him. Kind of exciting, but wouldn't it be nice if he didn't know that and the guy passed him and he had to... They were going for each other, they didn't really know who had what. So we're maybe going to pull that back and try it for a while.
Good idea. Do you think it's possible, with all of the electronic gadgetry, that the younger generation will say, I don't have to go to the track, I can watch it right here in my hand and get all the information? Now, this past weekend Long Beach had huge crowds. Good grief, they had really good. They had weekend at Barber that people will say, I don't have to go to the race anymore, I can watch it on my iPad or my iPhone.
Well, I can only use my experience, and that would be if I get a Rolling Stones CD and I listen to it till I'm blue, which I probably would be if I listened to it. Those guys are pretty old, But the difference between listening to it on the CD and going to the actual concert and watching the concert and getting the whole experience, and to be able to go around and tell your friends, gee, I went to that concert, I saw those old fellas up there with oxygen or whatever they take to keep them going. It's the experience, and I don't think you can ever substitute live. But I think what you want to do is you want to be there and you want all that information. You don't want to be sitting not playing with your device while you're watching the race. You want to tune into. So if I'm looking at the car in the turn one right in the middle, and I can key on it and say it pops up, he's doing 210 miles an hour and he accelerates down, and I knew. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. I would find that or if you were looking at a device and you saw an overlay of one driver versus the other, how they go through the corner, who was ahead here, who was quicker coming out. All that sort of stuff is just there to be packaged and can be made available. I would want to be at the track seeing it and looking at it on the device.
What are you looking at for next year at New Orleans? Now, I had some friends down there. He said, the last 2 weeks of March and the first 2-3 weeks of April, it rains all the time. Mm-hmm. Are you looking at changing? Is NOLA Motorsports Park looking at, let's try another date?
Well, regardless, I'm going to get another raincoat, that's for sure. New promoter invested a lot, and he's building that place out. And even though it was raining cats and dogs there, a lot of people came out. So I think there's probably a real potential there for that area for race fans. And we've got a longer-term deal with this track, so we're going to adjust our schedule to try and accommodate. When that will be, we haven't got down to that.
How did you like the facility when they did test there and it didn't rain and when it was dry? How did you like the track? Did they build a good racing track?
Well, I can tell you now we were extremely worried. Not because they did a bad job, but because our cars there were quite quick indeed. There was barriers, but they were a long way away, and we were concerned if we got off into it, we could, and it was wet ground, which it was, we'd get a truck in there but never get it out. And the race car, we'd bury it there because we'd never get it out again because it's very soft. We were worried about that, but full credit to the track. After a lot of discussion, a lot of opinions from the drivers and the FIA, they agreed and they put a lot of gravel down, gravel pits, which really means that once you get off, it just grabs a hold of the car and slows it. And when you're looking at those off-road excursions, which Conor never does, if he ever did, those gravel pits would be quite handy. So they did that, and that, as you saw, the conditions were atrocious, and they got off. A lot of people drove through it and came out, and it would be in a worse situation.
The thing that concerns me, and I probably alone or will agree with me, but I've read on a number of occasions that tracks that are being looked at to expand the series. Road Atlanta, Elkhart Lake, Cleveland, going back to Houston, I think, or they're talking about Houston or down to Austin. Unless I miss my guess, those are road courses. IndyCar thrown in the mix as to expanding the series and pick up a couple ovals.
Well, you're assuming that that's all we're looking at.
Well, that's what I've read.
Well, it's not solely road courses or street courses. In reality, we don't have a lot of choice in the matter. We go looking for promoters, and there are plenty of ovals in America, but there's not many promoters that look at open wheel racing and see it as a viable proposition. Oval tracks are quite hard to get a crowd to and for the promoter to make a business model out of it. But we keep looking and we keep talking, and just because you've not mentioned them, it doesn't mean that we're not looking. But it's a harder proposition to get an oval track, believe it or not. And some of them are not suitable for our car. We go to Texas every year, which if we really drove Texas the way we could, we'd be blacking out. The drivers would be getting, running out of oxygen because the can get there is quite high. Because our cars can really go quite fast on ovals, and ovals have particular for our cars in that way. So we have to detune our cars to go to those faster tracks and to make them work, and we do that in Texas. It's always a pretty exciting race, but we're looking at a car that's kept within its limits. The show, not go to the sound barrier. The ovals we're looking at getting dates is another function. They're obviously being used by that other series, NASCAR, and getting dates that don't conflict with theirs is an important part. The other thing we play with, which is important, is we look at when television could accommodate us, and television dates. We got what tracks are available. You know, will the fans come? Can there be this model that can make it work for the promoter? And so it narrows down your choices, even though you can think of lots of ovals, but it narrows it down. But we haven't given up on ovals, because whatever happens in IndyCar racing, there has to be a content is oval, because we are oval racing. I get it.
I have to say that the new staff that I think that's on board, Mr. Fry and Mr. O'Donnell, I think they get it, and I think Mr. O'Donnell has impressed me, which is not a big deal, but are promoting, going to this location and bringing drivers and letting the world know, here we come, because there was no doubt in anybody's mind in New Orleans IndyCar was coming. They were there for a week and they were in the parade and all that. I mean, they really made a big splash, and he's doing that at other venues. IndyCar is alive.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a dual responsibility. The league to help promote those events, to bring certain assets that the promoter hasn't got, and use them to help promote their race, and also because he's selling the tickets and he's got to make his money off of that, he has an obligation to promote the race as well. And that's one of the problems, is we can't have enough promotion, because a lot of times people don't know we're coming. In the past, they didn't know we were coming.
Oh, I know.
So, dual role, promoter and league, and CJ's on it.
Yeah, and when he and I were talking about it, I said, to me, who knows the series better than you? Now, you got some good promoters, but if you haven't been there in a while, like Brandon said when they went to Pocono, he said, since I've been in command, IndyCar hadn't been here. No. So I'm not really sure what we need to do. So,
right.
By working with them and showing them and helping them, it's going to help everybody. And Pocono's a good place to go, get a good crowd, have a good race.
Yeah, well, it's like anything, you got to let people know it's coming and what it is, and build it up, and who you're coming to watch. If you don't know anything about it, and you go into a new market, you've got to start from ground zero and build up the fan base there, because it's not everybody knows we're here.
I used to get irritated. I go to a motel. What brings you to town? A race? What race?
Yeah.
The racetrack is 3 miles down the road. You don't know it's coming. That, I think, is changing from what I've heard where I've been. Well, I know that you probably have to go back to the office. You got a lot more work to do.
No.
Oh, okay.
But if you're doing a polite way to say it's time for me to leave, I can do that.
No, I was...
He's so obvious, isn't he?
7 o'clock.
I certainly appreciate you taking the time, and as I said, this man is the president of competition for IndyCar Series, and I sent him an email, and he answers. Now, I sent him one today because and he's been out of town, and his girl answered me, said, yes, he will be there. So
my assistant.
Your assistant.
Amanda
yeah. Trotter, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Go. She'd like that.
Your assistant, I'm sorry.
Got a title. She's very good at it. But thanks for inviting me.
What more can I say? He's here, the president, Mr. Derek Walker. Thanks. The next guest busted his hump to get here, I'm sure. I got a text from him at 6:23 that said, I'm driving people around the speedway and I'm probably going to be late. And I said, because there's a bunch of people in here and they sure as hell aren't here to see me. So I will mention tonight that tonight's show is presented by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. Come to the country to see why the best prices are in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet. And you'll also see why Sam was South 1 Mile, and you won't miss them. Sam Pierce Chevrolet. They got good cars, good prices. When you buy a car from Sam, he doesn't stand behind you. He stands next to you. And stitches, too. Do you need some embroidery of any kind for jackets, hats, shoes, anything? Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley can do it for you. Give Fran a call. Her number is 317-271-3444. That's Stitches 2 on Gasoline Alley. And if you're a vintage car fan, I highly recommend Top Shelf magazine. To get a subscription, you go to svra.com and click on a subscription, and get yourself one. It is phenomenal. It's a great thing. And don't forget, in June, the SVRA is coming here. They'll be here June 10th through the 14th. They've got about 1,000 show cars that will be here, guys that have old cars. They're having close to 700 cars here. The Grand Marshal of the event is Al Unser Sr. It'll be a great event. You want to make sure you're there. And if May 14th to the 17th, they will be in Lake Forest Sports Cars at Road America. So if you want to see a good vintage event, the Spring Vintage Festival at Road America, May 14th to the 17th. Don't miss it. Get there. And if it's time for you to get new insurance, Dave Langston. Beck has been in business on the south side for over 30 years, an outstanding reputation. Beck Toyota is the #1 certified pre-owned Toyota dealership in the state of Indiana. They have an inventory over 100 different makes and models. Dave is a sales professional, will treat you with respect and make the buying process an easy one. Give him a call. Check him out. Number is 317-760-1613. That's Dave Langston at Beck Toyota, 317-760-1613. Now my next guest is a gentleman that I'm thrilled to have here. If you watch the as most anybody, and he had great news. He was excited, but he said his son's smile was bigger. He will be driving the Indianapolis 500 for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, a guy who absolutely deserves to be there. Conor Daly.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You didn't notice, but there's an elderly gentleman that stood up and cheered.
Noticed. I like it. I appreciate it.
Now, when
I would stand too. I'm excited.
You said, that you were really up in the air. Do I go to Europe and run, which you did, get the experience, because that's where you got called. You showed that you know how to drive a race car. There isn't any question. GP2 and GP3, you showed well, you drove well, you performed well, but then something happened this year and you're kind of standing around saying, hello, why?
Oh, we don't have any money.
Oh, well,
that's the only reason. Yeah, well, I mean, the European thing was great. Obviously, I've said it many times. I wouldn't be where I am today as a driver without that. I wouldn't have been able to do what I did at Long Beach without that experience that I had. We're seeing, I think, firsthand some of the guys who IndyCar and have had a difficult first year or first couple races because it's a lot to take in. And the IndyCar for me at Long Beach was kind of a good judgment of kind of, okay, can I get in and jump in and kind of do the job, even though it was obviously a steep hill to climb. But the European thing is what we that's what I meant to accomplish over there, is to be experienced, to gain all of the knowledge I could to use it in America should I get an opportunity. Obviously we didn't get the one that we this season, but that was a $2 to $3 million question that I wasn't able to answer. But obviously, I've done a race already this season, which we never expected to do, and now we've got another race coming up, which is a nice one to be competing in.
Now, I've heard the rumor that there's a possibility that Dale could, in fact, put you in one of his two cars for the Grand Prix. Is there any hint that could happen?
Yeah, I mean, I never really know what to expect out of Dale, to be honest. I mean,
neither does Mrs. Coyne, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I told him in Long Beach, because he was like, I was kind of telling him how my Indy deal had come to. It was already done really for a while, and he was like, oh, well, maybe if that kind of sponsorship money, we could have done both races in May. I was like, well, maybe if you answered my phone calls, we would have been able to talk about it. But so he was like, oh yeah, fair play, yeah. Well, so, but yeah, I mean, obviously, I get along really well with Dale, so he's he knows what that what kind of position he's in, and he's trying to make things work, and he's obviously putting two cars on the IndyCar field every weekend, so you have to give him a huge credit to that. But we'll see. Is something that I am dying to do. It's going to kill me to be there next weekend and not race. But he said he'd know more tomorrow, so I'll give him a call tomorrow and see what happens. I
will say about this young man as well. I after the announcement, I texted him. I woke up and said to myself, I don't have to call him or email. Why don't I text him? Because I'm not real good at it. So I did, and within 2 minutes he answered me and said, yeah, I'm available. So here he is, and I have to take my hat off. You know, I contacted you, and you said, yes, here you are.
Of course. It's been a crazy last 3 days, though. That's for sure.
And you texted me, as I said at 25 after, said, I'm driving people around the speedway. I may be late. I went, oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But that's something you have to do, and I understand that. That's
yeah, they pay, so I have to. Yeah.
If
and all my cards got declined this weekend, so I need to earn.
If anybody has an empty hat, I'd like to pass it.
It's crazy, man. Life is.
How excited is your dad?
Well, he's very excited because he has been a crucial part of this deal that we've put together for the last year and a half. It's taken that long to get this sponsor to be involved, and it is a big sponsor and a big company and a really good group of people. So he's very excited that it's finally happening, and I am obviously as well. So we've been working on this for a long time, and I think it's just been a rewarding last couple weeks to finally be like, all right, well, it's working, and we're going racing, and it looks really cool. Not that anyone can see yet, but it will look really cool.
Now, I said, when are you going to announce this? You said, I think you said Sunday.
Yeah, so Sunday morning before we run, we're gonna announce all that stuff and unveil the car and all that. So
I responded to you and said I'm going to harass you and try and get an idea. Is it a local company?
No.
Is it an American company or international?
Oh yeah, there's lots of freedom in America. Sure.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. 43. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. I've got a pretty good idea. This is crazy. I got to get a job polishing cars or something.
Well, about 2 months ago, like right before St. Pete, not great. I mean, I was like, actually, it was before this 12 Hours of Sebring. I was like, everything has gone. Like, obviously, the Schmidt seat, I lost that. KV seat, 3 different seats that, like, obviously, they were like, oh, yeah, we would really like to have you. And then I was like, but we need $2.5 million. And I was like, well, sorry. And, especially after the Schmidt test, too, that was such a high point. I was, like, so excited. I was like, yes, I did what I needed to do. But we know what happened there. So it was a shame. It was a difficult times at the household. I got called up for the 12 Hours of Sebring, and that went really well. And then kind of ever since then, everyone knew about Sebring for some reason at St. Pete. So it was really nice to hear that. And then obviously Long Beach and now Indy, and so things are sort of kind of back up on the upward momentum swing, which is just so typical racing. It can go from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs again.
How's your mom taking all this? A former racer herself, and I was up in the media center when you were running in Europe someplace, and she's up there watching it on a computer screen, screaming and yelling, jumping up and down. How is she taking all of this in?
Well, she wasn't in Long Beach, which was a shame. Neither was Doug. So my dad was the only one there, and Bell actually offered to fly her out Saturday night for the race, but they all decided to just stay home because everything is crazy at my household with May coming up. But yeah. Now, I mean, obviously there was some heated discussions, early in the off season because she was hating everything that was going on in the series and who was getting rides and who wasn't. And she was, very emotionally fueled, but entertaining conversations at home.
Well, I can well imagine, but she was a racer jet skis, quite good at it. In fact, I just read that somebody involved with or around you used to race against her. I just read that someplace.
Well, Tim Neff, my engineer for the 500, I grew up around him, and they used to race against each other all the time. He said to me yesterday, he's like, I cannot believe that after I've seen you as an engineering you at the 500, and I was like, yep, here we are.
At any point did you, as I asked you, did you ever say, no, this is crazy, I got to find some other direction?
No, never. No, I mean, I'm now and what I can do, and I know I'll be able to fit in somewhere at some point. Hopefully in IndyCar. More people keep telling me now that I'll be in IndyCar eventually, but even Roger Penske. Oh, thanks, Roger.
Didn't have an empty seat.
I know. I told him that in Barber. I said I went up to Roger on the grid in my 2-seater fire suit, and I said, Roger, how's it going, man? And he said, hey, great job in Long Beach. That was good. And I was like, oh, well, thanks, man. I said, we really got screwed in the pits there. I was a shame. I was like, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't know, but that's, for sure. And so I was like, well, thanks, man. Good luck today, and see you later. It was nice.
Yeah, but to me, the important thing is people are paying attention.
Yeah,
I was surprised that Smith didn't hire you, because when you drove, tested for him, you were fantastic.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's no real hiring going on. That doesn't really happen anymore unless you're with Penske or Ganassi. But even Andretti, I mean, unless you're in those 3 core seats, no one's really getting. Sadly, I can name the last 7 or 8 drivers who have been in. I can name how each deal came together, and it's just the way it is. I mean, Kurt Cavan actually wrote a really good article about that, the whole situation, because I wasn't hired to do the 500 at all. I mean, we found the sponsor and we brought it so we could go racing. So there still is a pretty big issue in the racing world with that right now, but it is what it is, and we obviously were able to find a sponsor so I can go racing, and so hopefully that can help the hiring situation, in the future.
If you weren't driving race cars, one thing I have to say, as I've said many times here, what I do now is I walk around, I listen, and I watch, and I'll listen. You're being a somebody, and I kind of eavesdrop. And one thing I'll say about you've never gotten down. You're always ready. And when when you get a call when you're eating a biscuit and you got your hat and your suit ready to go, and your good friend Marco Andretti gives you a seat to use.
Actually, I didn't use his seat. He's so small. I don't know who even said that I used his seat. I was like, have you seen us? Jeez. What happened was Andretti had brought over a bunch of seats for me to try, and so did Schmidt, and a bunch of teams had brought over seats. So I was like, oh wow, thanks guys, but 30 minutes, so we weren't going to try different seats out, so I just had to jump in Rockies and just go.
And it worked.
It was sort of. I still have a rib in the wrong place from where it was stabbing me, but we'll sort that out.
I saw on Facebook, in fact I commented on it, a picture you were going to New York, I think, and I'm not sure if it was Scott Dixon's plane.
Yes, it was Scott's plane.
And you're on there, and you're going to some birthday party in New York for Marco.
Yeah, it was Marco's birthday.
Well, why did he go to Nazareth? I mean, that's his what's in New York?
Well, we started in Nazareth.
Oh.
Yeah, we flew to Nazareth first, and then Marco rented a bus for 40 people, a school bus, a yellow school bus, and we drove a yellow school bus all the way to New York City. It looked awesome. It was it was funny.
I bet.
It's like the Clampetts, yeah. It was really funny.
Did you do the town up while you were there? Go to Times Square, visit any of the hot spots?
Nope, just dinner. Usual 10 p.m. dinners for Marco. So always late dinners, and then go back, and all of his cronies and homeboys out there. It's really funny. He's a great guy, though. He's been really nice to me.
Yeah, he seems to. You two guys have hit it off.
Yeah, I mean, he's. There are a lot of different opinions about Marco Andretti, but I have never met actually a nicer and who has he has literally paid for my flights for me to get around some of the places so far this year, and it was the first one to help me pay for the Schmidt test that I did too, and he's genuinely spent helping me out, so it's pretty cool to obviously he's got several different things going on at the track, and some people think that's Marco, he's just doing his thing, but it's he's got a good heart, that guy. He's a cool guy.
Well, next time you two are, be a little nicer to the fans, because
I know.
You're right, he is a nice guy.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of things. He's like a lot of these guys, they do stuff, but they don't want anybody to know about it, which is fine. But say hello to your fans.
Yeah, I know. I can't talk to him about that. I actually rarely talk to him on race weekends either. Well, he's a different guy on race weekends.
Well, yeah, and you got the name Andretti, and you're struggling for wins. You got to stab it and stir it.
I think I do think he'll probably win some races this year. One, maybe more. I think he's pretty focused on everything right now and wanting desperately to win. Well, I'll win obviously the 500. I think a lot of people have their money on him to win the 500 this year. I don't, because I would like to win, but then I might be able to do another race.
There you go. You've been to his house.
Yeah.
Nice little shack for a single guy, isn't it?
Yes.
Up on a hill.
Pretty much like the coolest place ever. Mario's house across the way, also the coolest, even cooler actually. Mario's just chilling there, with his fancy cars and trophy cases and stuff. And when I went there at first, I was, as I'm a race fan, so I loved it.
You, of course, will be down at WIBC's an evening at Fountain Square on Friday, May 15th, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll let Mario.
Than that?
I don't have any idea.
Sure.
You'll have to ask Jason. I don't know.
My schedule is slowly coming together, I think.
That's good. It's got to be for you really special because your dad was here. Your dad did quite well at Formula One in Europe. Came to America, got into the IndyCars, did extremely well there, and now you're following in his footsteps. And would you like to do more still in Formula One? Are you happy that you got the education you got? Now you're ready to attack the 500 in IndyCar.
Well, I mean, the first goal is to make a career out of motor racing. So, wherever that might be, I'm not sure yet. Obviously, I would love it to be for IndyCar right now, but, Haas has a Formula One team that he's so we think. If there's an opportunity to do that, absolutely. I think you can't count that out. Formula One's never really out of the question. You even asked Joseph Newgarden, who's obviously well into IndyCar now, but Formula One's always been on his mind as well. So it'll happen. But my dad, he's kind of fed up with the whole European Formula as well. Just because we now that we've been embedded in it for like 4 years, like we know how kind of unfair, political, etc. Just not really. I don't know. It's just unfriendly zone. Whereas IndyCar races are so much more enjoyable and like there's great fans and great people involved and stuff like that. So yeah, I like America.
I was talking with somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but he made the comment that you were walking, I think, through pit area, not in the pit, but behind it, and you were stopped more than some of the drivers going back and forth for autographs. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, I even showed up to the track. We had a kid staying with us at my house who was in USF 2000, a young Australian driver. Will Power called me and told me to help him out a little bit if I could. So I was like, okay. I've got a basement you can sleep in. So, but like he rolled up to the track at St. Pete with me or two other places, and there were so many people who were like wanted pictures and autographs, and I was like, geez, I don't even have a job. Like, this is kind of cool. So, yeah, I mean, the support's been amazing. I mean, I can't even believe, like, Long Beach especially was just, I mean, the amount of Twitter responses and Twitter tweets and posts and whatever, and it's just, I mean, it's really, it's I'm really thankful for it. It's just, it's cool to know that people actually care about something that you care so much about, and that they want to see. So, I can't believe it. I love it. I mean, that's, we do it so we can, put on a show and interact with everyone who enjoys what we have a passion for as well. Say that, hey, we made this announcement and we got, this massive, all these people were responding, etc. And it's really helpful, I think, moving forward. And I think if we can just keep building on it, build on the momentum. And thankfully, every time I've been in a car this year, it's gone well. So the momentum has kind of kept going, and there hasn't been a drop off yet. So I'll keep that rolling through May, and thankfully we get to be on track on Sunday. The car will be ready, and we can just kind of keep rolling. I'm excited.
You should be, and I think I'm going to take a stab here, but I bet you there's almost everyone in here that can't wait to see you on the track. Am I right?
Thanks, guys. It'll be fun. We're going to go really fast this year, I think. I hope.
Yeah.
I just saw the new rear wing today, and it's very small.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I actually don't know how it's going to work, but it's going to be funny.
Funny? It's gonna
Well,
be fun.
I mean, it is going to be fun, but I just like, geez, that's different. You know, the last year's one was like a dinner table. You get almost like it's that big, but now it's tiny. It's going to be interesting.
Got a lot of downforce jacked in it?
Well, apparently it's got the new aero kit has around the same amount of downforce with a little bit less drag, but there are also data maps where they have a little bit more downforce at the same levels but less drag. So I don't know. I just hope that it's high speed and low drag and just really fast. We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you what. I know that you're going to create a lot of attention, and justifiably. I have a feeling that that you've had enough experience to know how to handle a car, know how a car should feel, and I hope to see you hopefully on Saturday in the Grand Prix. I think that'd be really cool to see you run that one.
Yeah.
If I had Dale's number, I'd call him up.
He wouldn't answer.
I'll buy him. He won't. I'll buy 100 pounds of barbecue if he puts you in the car.
I would too.
For those of you who don't know, he owns a boatload of sun around the country. He does very, very well.
Yeah. They have a great group, those guys as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to give it to them. I mean, the engineers and the whole team. I mean, they were so thrilled after the weekend. They were all just really pumped about stuff like that. So I was like, man, these guys are really good group of people, because I hadn't really met anyone there before. People, but and the engineers are really smart guys as well. I mean, from where we started on our only practice, by the end of the race, I mean, I was like, wow, we did some serious work. So it was, it'd be nice to actually work with them more.
You had the second fastest Honda speed in the race, and you got a lot of coverage by the TV crew. They watched you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that means a lot, and it was just fun. I mean, I was laying it all out there. I was second of it, and do the job that we had in front of us, and beat some people and go fast, but just learn as much as we could as well.
Well, you did a great job.
Thank you.
You're going to drive with an outstanding team. Sam Schmitz Peterson Motorsports has got a good team for you as well. Hope to see you Saturday, and then Sunday when you start practicing for the Indianapolis 500.
Oh yes, I will be there.
And we'll be out. Probably a bunch of us are going to be out on Sunday to watch you practice.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, it's Thursday. Honda debuts their
Oh, really? Is
high
that
speed? Yeah, they're.
Oh, cool. I didn't know.
That'll be around. They'll probably call you, invite you over.
I honestly, things have been happening every day, and I'm like, okay, let's do that. All right, let's do it.
Well, you got a bunch of fans here, and you got a bunch of fans around the world. Keep up the good work. Keep doing a good job, and you're always ready to go. If you get a call in 30 minutes, you're ready. Can't be any better than that.
I will ready to go. Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Can he win the 500?
I hope so.
Well,
Thank you, guys.
And remember, the 500, you see a 4, figure out, I wonder where that came from. Say hello. Say Mr. Conor Daly.
Thanks, guys.
And by the way, you might want to talk to him. Maybe you can get windows for your house or something.
Are these
You never know. Oh, yeah. I have M&Ms here if anybody wants any. They're AutoSport Radio M&Ms. They've been in a cooler all week, so they're not a mess. Help yourself. And next week we will be here live and in color. Have a couple more guests. And as I said at the beginning, if anybody is interested, I have 4 tickets to Saturday night's game for the Indianapolis Indians. If anybody would like them, stop up and see me. Till next week, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, listening. Hopefully our new live stream worked out well. And don't forget, we now have a channel on YouTube. It's IndyCar.com, I think. So look it up, and you'll see Sandy at the beginning, the right one. Till next week, good night. All right? I know it's ours. We're video if you want to start, right? No. Yeah. I'm a Laker fan. Yeah. No, you said that.
Hey, thanks, Don.
Unbelievable. Thank you. Good luck to you.
What did Derek have to say?
don't know. You heard most of what he said. He was late getting here, so I had signed to Eden.
Does anybody care about the Indians tickets? Does anybody care about the Indians tickets?
You care?
I can do them every. I can bring you 7 minutes. Back to the whole slew of them, and nobody uses them.
So, if anybody's interested in Indians tickets, Saturday night. There's somebody pointing at me. You know, if that thing goes off, I'm somebody wants them.
Did you have them all?
I took the one off your table. You're not going to smoke it?
No. Okay. They were smoking behind me. That's all I wondered.
Back there? I just say something. You're taking the thing off here and put it on there.
I know that. Good show, Don.
Yeah, I had the live show worked perfectly on my iPhone. That's the first time it's worked. It didn't work before. Now the new system works.
You want tickets too? What? 2 and 2? I'm not greedy. I know. Actually, we did the same for years. 72 degrees to already checked.
Where's the party?
Dang it!
We're set. That's working. Oh, I don't have one either.
We need some work done.
Here, no. You didn't fill up on it. I won't eat them. Where's the lovely? Carl, where's the lovely?